Hello and welcome to another episode of Food Chain. Today we are talking about the cattle ranching system in Ghana. But first, let's go to the farm as I engaged Imam Hanafi Sunday as he described what the ranching system is about, and he talked about some government ranches across the country.
We have engaged government several times, and I have mentioned severally that this government, I think, set up, when it came to power, set up a committee known as Ghana Cattle Ranching Committee. The committee I'm talking about, I'm also a member of the committee. It's under the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and National Security. The committee the mandate of the committee was to look at the development, to bring out a proposal that could develop the cattle industry of the country and also a holistic solution for the farmer-herder conflict. So we went ahead and produced those documents. I think that is what led to the ranches established or renovated in Eastern Region, Amankwa and then Wawase ranches. However, we need to go beyond there. Government is responding, but to we the cattle farmers, we think government has not responded to the level of expectation, and that is why we are still here. Because if we can produce animals, we can make some land available. As I speak to you, where we are today, the Omahene of the Gomua Ejumako traditional area, Nya for Krampa, the 11, has given us up to 500 acres, which when we were coming, I showed you through our chief here, who is our regional chairman of the association in the central region. This 500 acres is there for any innovational activities of the livestock. So you can see that accessing the land is not a problem. Having the cattle, we have them, not problem. But the problem has to do with who are the technical people who will move us to understand the other system. It's not about showing me what is happening in America, showing me what is happening in India, in Australia. Fine, but let me see it happening within my own, cattle. So the insemination is a welcome idea. So we are pleading with the embassy and all stakeholders that we are looking for partners who will come and intervene, because the killings between farmers and herders has become a very big issue, especially where we are now in the central region between Winneba and Afram. We're at Afram area. Now, one of the biggest problems here is cattle rustling. I was telling you that 2 days ago, one a herder or a caretaker was killed, and people troop in sometimes and then steal these animals, and then some of the herders are tied, and so even without the other one, there are other problems where you would like to confine your animals and take care of them. You see, so with this technical way of breeding is the other one, with the open grazing, is something we cannot avoid because we don't have other alternative. If we had, nobody want a problem. Nobody want to die. Nobody wants his animal to be killed. But sometimes if you don't know two, you manage one.
You mentioned that government had a ranch somewhere that you were testing certain methods, certain new technology. What happened to that?
Yes, the ranches I'm talking about were established by His Excellency, the former President Kufuor, within Afram Plains, and then was renovated during this current government of His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo. And as through the committee under the two ministries I mentioned, we tried to see if we could do something different. I can say to very sure that I'm the first person who conveyed my animals into that ranch. This tells you that we are ever ready. Even though I conveyed my animals from central region, I am not even part of the people in the eastern region, but to let what we call the entire farmers to know how serious we support the project, I moved my animals from central region, paid their transport, and then sent them there, followed by my national vice chairman. But I think we could not get it in its best way. We cannot say it's all bad, but we need to take a look, second look of that program, because if we are not changing the animals and we just want to create a place for them, it wouldn't change anything. So we need to change the animals, because, for example, if I am to feed the animals and I have to pay for the feed and I am not deriving anything. So, for example, the ranches, the aim and objective of the government towards the ranches are very good. But what has to be done there need to be demonstration points where all herders will come and see the best way of, breathing. So I think it is a good initiative by the government, but we've not gotten it to our satisfactory.
I have come to see the chairman of the Ghana Cattle Ranching Committee, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, to help us understand what has been happening in the cattle ranching system in Ghana. We would like him to address a few issues that Imam Sunday raised. Hello, Doc.
Hello.
Please, I hope you are doing very well.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so what are the current ranch system in Ghana?
Well, Ghana has a number of cattle, mainly owned by small-scale cattle farmers, and the cattle are moved around for water and feed, that's grasses and so on. And quite often, there are problems involved in destroying crops, contaminating water bodies, which are used by human beings and so on. That creates a lot of problems. And again, we also get cattle coming across the border, for the same purpose, for feed and water, particularly during the dry season, when these are scarce in the countries of origin. And therefore, it was necessary to have some sort of a system that could confine the animals, but then they will be well fed, catered for, so that they will perform satisfactorily and then also don't create any problem for the crop farmers and the people living around.
Okay, so what's the role of the committee?
Well, the committee was set up by the Minister of Food and Agriculture in 2017 to advise the government, come out with proposals to find out how best we can have cattle production in this country without any problems. What we normally call herder-farmer conflicts, which create a lot of problems, for both the cattle farmers, the herders, as well as the crop farmers. So the main purpose of the committee was to come out with proposals that would bring peaceful cattle production in this country. That's peaceful production between crop farmers and cattle farmers. And that is the main purpose of setting up the committee.
So, has this challenge been addressed? The committee, has it been able to address, the confusion between the herdsmen and then the farmers?
Well, in a way, but it's a gradual process. And the committee comprises stakeholders across the value chain of cattle production, as well as crop farmers. We have representatives of the crop farmers, we have peasant farmers associations, we have the ministries, we have the livestock society, professional societies, and so on. But what the main issue that the committee has tackled so far is converting existing fodder banks in the Afram piece. There were 4 that were established during President Kufuor's time, his presidency, for providing water as far as pasture for cattle in the Afram Plains, but they were never used for quite a long time and deteriorated. And therefore, the idea came that this can then be converted to ranches. Ranches mean places where animal livestock are kept year-round without getting out to destroy crops and so on. So this is what has been done to hold community cattle, that is cattle within the Afram Plains, so that they wouldn't go about doing the sort of things that they were doing before, destroying crops and so on. And largely, it has been successful.
So I know about the Wawase Ranch and then the Amankwa Ranch. You
Yes.
mentioned 4.
Yeah.
What are the other 2?
Well, as I indicated, they were fodder banks,
Okay.
just to provide water and then feed. So the animals will come there and go out, as they wish. But that also goes with a lot of programs with management of the feed resources and the water. So there were 4, 2 in the South District, Afram Plains South District. This is Wawase and Forifori, and 2 in the Kwewu Afram Plains North. That is Amankwa and Menchemfre. But so far, what we've done is that we have converted the Wawase Fodder Bank into a ranch and is currently holding animals. That was in 2018, and then the Amankwa was recently, taking lessons and so from the previous one, the Wawase one, and Amankwa started holding cattle this year, around May, June.
Okay, in 2019, it was reported that some of the cattle went missing.
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us about that? How many of them went missing?
Well, they were stolen.
Okay.
By somebody who also keeps cattle somewhere in the Kwewu area, but not within Afram Plains. Probably arranging with some of the herders, and then they were stolen. But we managed to get back a lot of them. So I was even involved, with the police in retrieving the cattle from his cra. And then we also met a truck coming from his cra with some cattle, and they were taken back. But then a few were still missing. Overall, they were left with about 17 that we couldn't get back. Yeah, that were stolen. But he ended up in jail for quite a while, and then that was it.
So how were they able to steal it? Is it that the security system was breached, or what happened?
Well, again, I would say this was during the initial stages. We didn't have all the necessary security measures put in place, which later on we did. As at now, it's quite well secured. For instance, we got horses for the security men so that they can move up and down. We have security towers where they climb, stay up there. There are 2 of them, and then they can see all over the ranch, and that makes it difficult for them. And then we've also had some lighting in specific places in the night. So now it's quite difficult, for people to steal any animal from the ranch.
So how many cattle do you have now?
Well, at the moment, we have about 1,600. But then, as they are brought in, they also take some to sell. They brought in mainly animals that were males that were meant for sale and so on, so that when they stay there, they get fattened. Then they are moved out for sale, which is allowed because they also pay part of the money that they get, to the ranch for maintenance of the ranch. So that's also allowed. But again, at the beginning, most of the farmers weren't sure as to what to expect. So they brought in very weak animals. If somebody had a herd of cattle, 100, he may bring in 10, which will be very weak, and then under normal circumstances may even die if they were left behind. But when they were brought, some of them were able to get some of them back to good health, because we had very good health care system with all the necessary drugs available.
But my conversation with the president for the National Cattle Farmers Association, Imam Sunday, he expressed displeasure in how the cattle were handled. He said he was the first person to take his cattle to the ranch, but then when he went there a few months back, he realized that the cattle were not properly taken care of.
Most of the cattle that were brought there were not in good health, and I wouldn't agree with my good friend Imam in some of the things that he has said. You know, well, you see, the herders, they have a system of keeping the animals, even health-wise. I mean, using some herbs and so on. And then some of them may not want to accept other types of treatment given by the veterinary surgeons. They all do work if they are properly done. But like any system, initially there are problems. There were problems. But over time, these problems likely died out. To the extent that if you went there, I've been there with Imam a number of times. For instance, in the dry season, when you see the cattle there compared to the cattle outside the ranch, there's a vast difference, because those there are properly fed. You know, they get adequate feed, they get the necessary medication and so on, and do very well. You know, so that is a fact.
So, talking about feeding, most of the local cattle farmers rely solely on grass. Do you give the cattle anything other than grass?
Yeah, we give the cattle grass, but there are different types of grasses. I mean, one will call them forage, because grass is a group of plants. There are about 4 to 6 different types of plants. I mean the grouping. Yeah. Like we could say maybe Africans, Asians, and that sort of thing. And some of them are very good, far better than the grasses we have in this country. And they were imported as seeds. And then they've been tried, they do very well. And we have a lot of them on the ranch. In addition to that, we also give them supplement, what you call supplement, that's after grazing. They also get something else to make up any deficiencies. And we give them cotton seed, which is very, very rich in nutrients. We give them rice straw, and then a few other things, you know. But even the rice straw, not mere straw as such, but there's a way of treating the straw using nitrogen-based fertilizer, and it enriches it as if it is fresh grass, and then it's also very well digestible, which is given mainly in the dry season. So we give them far more than they will get otherwise.
As at last year, statistics shown that the world consumes about 841 million tons of milk. But Ghana, we don't produce. The cattle that we have here hardly produces any milk. And we can barely produce for ourselves, to talk of exporting. Is this something that we may change soon?
Yes, you are right. Not only milk. Almost all the livestock species that we have, we produce far less than we should otherwise. But when you talk about milk, our cattle, the indigenous ones, the West African shorthorn, they produce only about half a liter of milk a day. Then you get the zebus, which produce far more than that, about 2.5 liters of milk. And then in between the sangas, the crows, and so on. But then we have cattle in this country. They've been here for well over 10 years, maybe 15 years or so. That they are exotic. They are jerseys, but they've survived, And a lot of farmers have them, even here in around Accra area. So the only way that we can get our cattle producing more is to undertake crossbreeding with some of these animals, like the Jersey, which we've had in this country for about 15 years, and they're doing very, very well. Through crossbreeding, either natural mating or by artificial insemination. And when it comes to artificial insemination, then we can also use some of the other exotic, like the Frisian, which produces a lot of milk. So we have cattle in this country that are producing a lot of milk. So it's a matter of getting people interested to look at milk production, which means that they have to change their type of breed over time by introducing those that produce more milk. But that wouldn't go for all cattle becoming dairy cattle. We need our beef cattle as well.
So the Israeli embassy recently did a workshop for the cattle farmers, and they mentioned that they will be importing some semen here to crossbreed. Do you think that is going to?
Yeah, that's very much welcome. But when you use the semen to crossbreed, to cross our animals, the offspring you are going to get in between. It's like a black person and a white person.
Yeah.
You get a half caste.
Yeah.
But they also require some specific treatment that must be given to them. They would need better quality feed. They will need more health care, better health care, because our animals, having been here for centuries, have adapted to the environment. And one has to make sure that all these type of prophylactic treatment, preventive treatment are given. Otherwise, we may also lose a lot of them. But I'll go in for that, those who are prepared and have the capability of rearing them, as some people are doing, particularly in the around Amrenhia area. There is a particular place in Eastern region, the name has just escaped me, I think I'll get it anyway, where they've been keeping for years under a special project, which is Heifer International project, that brought the Jerseys, and they cross them with the local ones, and doing marvelously well. That's at Suhum. There's a group of farmers who are doing it right now.
Okay, so Doc, how do you regulate the transhumans herders? I know the sedentary ones are a bit easy to regulate. How do you ensure that they go according to, regulations? Because the sedentary herders are saying that the transhumans herders are the cause of most of the confusion between farmers and cattle farmers.
Yeah, that is very true. And we are looking at ways of doing that, because there's an ECOWAS protocol on transhumans that covers the cattle coming from other countries. And it tells us exactly what to do. It's only that we have not really put it in the practice. And that's what we are trying to do now with the grazing reserves at the corridors. Because before an animal comes in, say from Mali, the Ghana government authorities in Mali will have to tell Mali authorities how many animals will be accepted by Ghana in such and such a year. Assuming we say they can bring only 1,000 cattle, then they must have, those bringing them must have health certificates for all the cattle. And then on this certificate, the transplant certificate, is put on it when they can come to Ghana and when they should leave. So that if they are to leave, assuming they are to leave in April 20th, and you know that you need 1 month to move out, then it means you set up before that 1 month ahead, because by that they should be out. And then the certificate should have indicate the treatment that you have for your cattle, because there are some sort of treatment that you have so that they don't bring in any animal. Then where to the entry point is indicated, where you must enter, And then where you mark their destination, where the animals must go. But largely we don't follow this. And they enter through anywhere. We have designated entry points where we also have veterinary facilities there for quarantine and treatment and so on. In the north, in the upper west, upper east, in the somewhere in the Volta region and so on. But they pass through anywhere that they wish, so long as they get in the country, which is totally wrong. And this is what we hope to do. I mean, with the corridors and the green reserves, that will be regulated.